Artflakes on CBA TV. My name is Mutiu Olawi, the host of this unique show. As I've told you in the last episode, this time around, we are having a new version, a new change. We are going to another part of the globe. Let's go to the other side, and you'll get to understand which part of the globe we're talking about. See me on the other side. Welcome back once again. This time around, as I've told you, we are now in Asian world. The last time, we went to European world with Professor Christopher Lasari. This time around, we are with Sonnet Mondal. Some of you will be surprised, sonnet. Sonnet is just a poem of 14 lines. How can someone be bearing that? He will explain himself anyway. So before we go into discussing in detail with our guest today, I want us to know who is Sonnet Mondal. But why he's bearing that Sonnet Mondal, he's going to explain himself. Sonnet Mondal is an Indian poet, literary curator, editor, and author of Karmic Chanting, which was published in 2018. Ink and Line, published in the same 2018 by a different publisher, anyway, that is Dhauli Books, and 5 other books of poetry. He has read at literary festival in Macedonia, Ireland, Turkey, Nicaragua, Sri Lanka, Italy, Germany, Hungary, Ukraine, and Slovakia. His writings have appeared in several publications across Europe, North America, Asia, Australia, and in fact, Africa. Mondal has been one of the authors of the Silk Road project of the International Writing Project at the University of Iowa from 2014 to 2016. One of the founding directors of the Chair Poetry Evening International Festival. Mondal edits the India section of Lyric Line Poetry Archives in Germany, in Berlin, and serves as the editor-in-chief of Enchanting Verses Literary Review. He has been a guest editor for poetry at Sangam, India, and Words Without Borders in New York. And his works have also been translated into several languages like Hindi, Italian, Chinese, Turkish, Slovak, Macedonian, Ukrainian, Russian, Slovenian, Hungarian, and Arabic language. This is Sonnet Mondal. How do you come about your name, Sonnet? Sonnet is, as I've said earlier, is not common to hear that someone bears sonnet as a type of poetry. Now you have become a poet. How can you connect these two dots together? A poet bearing sonnet.
As far as I can remember, it's my birth name. It is not a pseudonym that I kept later. I asked my parents one day that, how did you name me Sonnet? So they told that once they went to see some program of some musician in India where he was reciting some sonnet of a great Indian poet named Michael Madhusudan Dutt. My father wanted to keep an uncommon name that is not common anywhere in the world, and this name clicked him, and he named me Sonnet. Now, the matching of my activities with my name is purely coincidental. It happened years and years later.
So what can you say generally about Indian literature? How far have you gone in India as far as literary world is concerned?
Well, if I can talk about the literary activity, India has been through several phases of literary activities. Some people tell that, some historians tell, in fact, that India has got the oldest literary tradition dating back to the Mahabharata, Ramayana, which were all written in verse form. And there are many more, the Upanishads, Vedas, they are all a part of the Indian literary tradition. And then India has got a very mixed culture after, from the mid-centuries. And the latest literature, what you see today is the contemporary Indian literature, which is written in several languages, like 22 scheduled languages, and there are many more languages in which people do write. And They are being translated, they are creating good literature. But if I come especially to poetry, because it is my genre, I think that there are more writers of poetry than readers of poetry in India. I think this is true all over the world also. But I think the situation is improving. For prose writers, of course, there are many publishers and festivals, but for poetry, I think it is still a bit marginalized, but poets are doing well. A lot of young voices are coming up in the Indian literary scene.
So how did you develop your passion for literature? Was it natural or someone assisted you?
Well, I do not remember any particular moment or time when I got into literature, but I remember it was during my school days. And I remember my maths teacher once told me that your name is Sonnet. Why don't you try writing a sonnet? And I had a reaction like it's very tough to write a poetry or something like that. But slowly and slowly, maybe that thing put some impression in my mind, after which I started penning. And I never know. I think poetry pulled me to itself. The very form, the terse and figurative it is. I think it is. It's the form. It's the loveliness and the beauty of the form that we call as poetry pulled me into itself.
Our creative writing or the literary work of art change your perspective about life?
Well, I think that it has changed a lot in me. The best gift that poetry could have given me is the desire to travel. There is a fact that people consider poets as hermetic creatures, They are solitary beings. People think them like that, but they are not. If you see over the past, centuries or ages, poets have crossed boundaries. They have met new people. They have started discourses. Poetry has led the base fire for future political and cultural discourses that has shaped, the cultural history of a country later. So poets are hermetical creatures. For me, it is true also. Like poetry has taught me to move out of my room, to see more, to see things like which may be, of less importance to daily lives, but which may affect your lives later when you grow up, when you proceed with life. So, and also, like, I have been to different poetry festivals. So, after being to different poetry festivals and also for the purpose of travel abroad, not only to read, I have realized that if I wouldn't travel, I wouldn't have been able to write so much.
So, what are some of the challenges faced by Indian creative writers, especially poets? Now that you say you're a poet and you've specialized more in that aspect of the genre of literature.
Generally, well, challenges. I have to like segregate things. I think Indian novelists and prose writers do not face as much challenges as you know uh, in comparison to Indian poets, because they do not have many publishing houses who are interested in writing poetry. But if you write prose novels, I think Indian writers are doing quite well in comparison to, if you compare them to European authors or US based authors or anywhere in the world. So they are excelling a lot. So challenges, if you say, maybe there are internal challenges in the mind of the writer, which I have to tell you case by case, which would be a huge thing to tell. But for them, in lieu of market challenges, I think prose writers do have a lot of publishers taking interest in good prose writing nowadays.
As a publisher, do you feel fulfilled?
Well, fulfillment is a strange term. It never comes for a poet or for a publisher or for anybody else. I think I wish to have more issues of my magazine, but the time constraint, I have to concentrate on my writing too, so it limits like my magazine to have only 2 issues per year. But I wish that I could have like 4 issues or 5 issues per year, so as to include more poets, publish more discussions, research works in my magazine. Maybe in future I would find out a way. So as far as fulfillment is considered, I am not even halfway as a publisher.
Among all your creative writings, which one do you admire most and why?
Okay. The thing is, a poet is never satisfied with his work. I think every poet would agree with it. Like when you have if I look back like to the books I penned like 5 to 6 years ago, I'm not happy with them anymore. So if you ask me that which is my most significant work, then I should say my latest work, Karmic Chanting, because I think it's my latest work. That's it, and my latest thoughts are put into it, and maybe till date it is. Yeah, I feel it is like if someone has to read me, he should read Karmic Chanting first.
So, what are Indian writers doing to alleviate rape and other domestic violence rampant in the country?
Yes, I think poetry and Indian poets are playing a mammoth role in protesting against all odds that are happening in the country. Like if you say anything like anything bad that is happening that is related to the regime, or anything social malices that are like happening all over the country or that are engulfing country, poets are in the forefront of protest. The Indian poets, like it's a strange thing. Like poets before, if you consider the 18th, 17th century or beyond that, you'd see family as an important factor in Indian poetry. But now protest is the prime factor in Indian poetry. No matter like if things happen in India or not, they would protest. If something happens in Syria, they would write against it. If something happens in London, bad happens in London, they would write against it. And of course, in India, anything bad, whether it be the men in power that is imposing on us, or whether it be social, barriers, or a lot of other things, problems that the society has to face due to regimes and other aspects of the government even. Poets have always played a mammoth role, and they are playing, in fact, a mammoth role in protesting. They are reading protest poetry in the open, not fearing what comes on their way. So I think they are playing a great role because it is shaping the country. It is preventing the ones who maybe it is preventing the situation that can be worse for a country. So poets are playing a great role in this regard.
Let's go for a break. When we come back, I want us to explore some of the work of this great writer, Sonnet Mondal. See you there.
Welcome to QETC Qalam Educational and Technical Center.
I am Mohammed Ahmed. I am a student of Qalam Educational and Technical Center.
Qalam Educational and Technical Center is a place that you can improve your English language.
I came with zero English. Now I'm better.
Come to Qalam Educational and Technical Center. This will help you to improve your English, your listening, your speaking, your writing and reading.
If you want to speak confidently without fearing, come and join Qalam and learn how to speak in front of thousand people without fear.
Welcome back from the break. This is Artflakes. If you are joining us for the first time, the show where we discuss about issues that affect people around the globe through literature. With me, I have Sonnet Mondal from India, discussing with me the literary world of Indians. And this time around, in the second part of this show, we will be dealing with his own work. What has he done so far? Particularly, we want to look at some of his poems. Something strike me about your work, particularly one of this poem titled Aside. And I want to read it out because I need you to explain in detail what this poem is all about. Aside. When I would die, you would wonder about the period when I was dying. Sometimes you cross a road without knowing, and then you know it was there. When old leaves fall, trees rejoice the space for new. When I'm here, there's a world locked inside me. And when I'm gone, my word will roam the earth. What do you mean about what do you mean by this content? What message are you trying to pass across to your audience with regards to, to your reader, with regards to this poem? It's short, concise, but there are a lot of messages you are trying to convey there. What is it about?
This is basically a mystical poetry concerned and wrapped around life. Like if you hear what I have told towards the last, that when I'm here, there is a world within me. So most people are concerned about what would happen to me after death. Nothing, like most people are convinced that death is the end. Like some way or the other, they are convinced that after that, it doesn't matter. But it matters. I wanted to tell them it matters because there's a world now locked inside me. I'm writing poems. I'm doing things which relate to the people. But when I'm gone, and still I control my creations now when I'm alive. But when I'm gone, there would be no one to control my creations. It would be open to the people, and the people would perceive them as their own. So this is my basic philosophy behind this poem.
That's interesting. That's interesting. There's another one that strikes me every time I look at some of your work. I've tried as much as possible to review some of the literary work that you've done, particularly your poem. And one of them strikes me every time I look around to check your work. And this one has to do with Nobody Speaks of You, Syria. Syria. How related is Syria and India? Why are you interested in Syria? Why not bothering about issues that affect people in India alone? And what is this poem all about?
Well, I already mentioned that I believe in one world. It is not that what's happening in India would only concern me, and what's happening in Syria would not concern me. So everything concerns me. And if you read my whole book, you would see there are a lot of poems related to India too. It is not just Syria. So coming back to this poem, like Nobody Speaks of You, Syria, it was written when there were these, I think back in 2016 or something, when these twin blasts took place in Aleppo. The Aleppo bombing happened, yeah. I wrote this poem then. I was visiting Istanbul for a poetry festival, and just before that, these bombings took place, and I saw, I met a child outside Istanbul airport begging in some unknown language, and the only language which I could understand was Syria, because it's a name. So I could understand that the child maybe she was from Syria, and she's begging because she has lost everything. She has lost her hope and everything, and she wants to see a new world, maybe to survive. She's begging outside the Istanbul airport. Maybe she wants to make her voice heard outside an international airport so that people sees her. How world has changed for them totally. And there is nobody to hear. At least in other countries, if something happens, there are a lot of tension.
As a creative writer, what's your candid opinion about Iran-US crisis? What message do you have for the world?
I do not want another war. I already gave an update in my Facebook account that I do not want another war. We have seen enough. And it is time that we learn to be compassionate. It is time that we learn to preserve nature. It is high time that we understand, otherwise the whole human civilization of which we are boasting now would be demolished in the next few hundred years.
So what are Indian writers doing to solve the problem faced by the Kashmiris? Particularly this time around that they are facing a lot of problem as a result of the oppression on the part of Indian government. What are Indian writers doing? Are they in support of what the government is doing against the people of Kashmir, or what, are they really doing something meaningful to make a change or make life better for the people of Kashmir?
Well, I think Indian poets believe in one world. I have a lot of poet friends who believe in one world, and we do not believe in boundaries. What's happening in Kashmir, I think it is sad. In one word, it is sad. Even if one person is losing his life, I think it is equivalent to 100 people losing their lives. So we cannot give birth to anyone. We have no right to take lives. And I think the policies should be more transparent. The policies should be more humanitarian in dealing with people, because after all, we are human beings. We shouldn't forget that. And a lot of poets from Kashmir, a lot of voices from Kashmir, and poets from other parts of India have written about Kashmir. They are writing about Kashmir, like from a humanitarian point of view, not going in further details, of course.
What about the case of this CAA, the recent issue of discrimination against Muslim in India? The protests, particularly the protests, the torturing of the student by the police. Do you feel that is right, or as a creative writer who has no boundary, as you have said earlier, that you have writers have only one word? What's your view about this? Are the police in the right direction, or you feel the students are doing what is supposed to be done?
No, it is not okay at all. Like, attacking students is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. In one word, I should say, it is not acceptable. It's not done. Police have a different role to play. There are a lot of things happening in the country where the police should be more active than concentrating on what the students are doing, because the students are protesting for a good cause. Student politics has been there, like during our times. Before that, and it would be there, and they are not playing, like they are not, demeaning the society as a whole. There are a lot of other things that are happening where the police should show their major role, and the government should show their major role, rather than concentrating and getting police inside university campus, which is not done at all. So it is not okay, like 1%. And I do not accept it at all. I think the humanitarian aspect, again, I would come back. People in regime are lacking the humanitarian aspect. They have to be more humanitarian. They have to understand the diversity that has made India what it is now. The government should listen to them. The government should come out. They should interact with them rather than sending police inside and beating them up like horribly. So they should build up a discourse. They shouldn't turn a deaf ear to whoever is saying against them. It is not like they are telling against the country or something. They are telling something that can make this country a better place, or they are telling something for which India has been India over so many years. They are protesting for the cause of diversity. They are protesting for the cause of secularism. So I think the government should have an ear to hear them first. And we cannot change the history of the country just because some people in power want that.
All right. What's your final message to our viewers at home?
Couple of messages. Believe in peace and believe in poetry. So if you are still not reading poetry, start reading poetry. I think it has the capability to turn you into a very good human being.
Thank you so much, Sonnet Mondal. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your wealth of ideas to our viewers today. And I believe we've gathered a lot from you. And I am sure that next time we'll call you, you'll give us a lot of information that will add value to the world. Keep doing your great work, and thank you for joining us. See you next time. Dear viewers, we've got a total exploration, holistic exploration of the Asian world through the border of India. And with us, Sonnet Mondal has been able to give us a little bit of what writers or creative writers are doing to make a change in their own world, particularly in India, and their suburb like Kashmir. When we meet next time, we will enter another part of the globe. And I'll keep that with me until we meet. See you there.